And joining me right now on the phone with debate reaction is the O'Reilly Factor host, Bill O'Reilly. Bill, thanks so much for getting up early for us. How you doing?
Did you stay up all night?
No, I did not pull an all-nighter. I went right to bed after the debate.
Did you
I got
really?
about 3 hours sleep. I'm good.
Wow.
What did you think about the debate?
Wait, Maria,
Let's stay up all
the debate
night.
doesn't matter. Your welfare matters far more than the debate. I never would have, believe me, I never would have gotten up for anybody but you. Those guys with you, no way I would have gotten out of the sack for that. Here's my question this morning, and I really, you know me, I think I'm a know-it-all and all that. Here's what I don't know. I don't know if Jeb Bush helped himself last night or not. It looked to me like he had some good answers. But it didn't look to me like he came out ahead of anyone. And there's, obviously 7 other people on the stage. So that's what I don't know. Otherwise, I think that Carson and Trump kind of tread water. I think that Rubio and Cruz were very articulate and energetic. I think Fiorina helped herself in the sense that she's very credible. She really is articulate on the issues. Kasich probably hurt himself, but he's not a conservative guy, and he's not really well suited for primaries. I think his main thing is that he could garner independent votes and perhaps conservative Democrats. Rand Paul is finished; he's done. And who am I leaving out? Am I leaving out anyone?
What about Carson? Did you say Dr. Carson?
Yeah, I did. I don't think he or Trump hurt or helped themselves. I think it was a tread water situation.
What about the earlier debate, Bill, with Christie and Trump and that crew?
Full disclosure, Bill, I had to do 2 shows last night, so I couldn't watch the earlier one.
Hey, Bill, you mentioned
Steve Moore.
You mentioned this Jeb Bush issue, which I think is the big issue, whether he did well enough to regain so much of the ground that he's lost. What was interesting to me was the interplay or lack thereof between, Jeb Bush was standing on the stage next to Marco Rubio. And as you know, there's a little bit of a nuclear war going on now between those two. As you know, Maria, there's news that Bush is going to spend like $10 million on attack ads against Rubio. And it was interesting to me, they, number one, on stage and when the cameras were off, they never talked to each other. These are 2 people who used to be best friends.
Well, I'll weigh in on that. Number one, both the Clinton campaign and the Bush campaign believe that Marco Rubio is the biggest potential threat to them.
Right.
No doubt that.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that is, Bill? Why is he the biggest threat? Why do they believe that?
The Republican establishment will get behind Rubio, whereas they're going to have a hard time getting behind Trump. And Carson, not as hard a time, but they still feel that his inexperience would allow Hillary Clinton to defeat him. However, Marco Rubio, with his appeal to younger Americans and to Hispanic Americans, if he can continue to gain credibility, would be acceptable to the party chieftains. On the other side, I don't think it's a smart move for Jeb Bush to do that, to spend any money attacking Marco Rubio, and here's why. Rubio put out an ad about Jeb Bush where Bush was saying all kinds of great things about Rubio.
Right.
And that ad
that's
is
right,
devastating. Yeah. It's devastating. Because it makes the governor look small now. And, they don't like each other very much because they're running against each other, and it's pretty intense.
Well, and Bill, it's Steve Cortez. And look, it's understandable. You can't have 2 bulls in the same ring, right? They're both from Florida. Clearly, they can't both end up in the final count. But here's my sense of when we look at Marco Rubio, and I think this is important. I agree with you that the establishment is comfortable with Rubio, but when you say establishment, to a lot of Republican primary voters, they actually recoil at that, right? At the establishment. I think what's really sort of magical about Rubio, and I thought he had a fantastic night, is that he appeals not just to the establishment, but he's also very acceptable to Tea Party voters, as you said, to younger voters. voters, to Hispanics. So I think he's the only,
Definitely
in my
younger
view,
voters.
the only Republican candidate who can speak to the Chamber of Commerce at lunch, can speak to the Tea Party at dinner, and then can go to a very establishment cocktail party that night and appeal to all of those disparate parts of the Republican Party and unite it.
And I think he's been the most consistent one from day one. He hasn't gotten off message. I don't believe he's made a mistake, unless you guys can correct me.
No, yeah.
So he's as a result of that, he's going up and up and up in the polls.
Well, one thing I really liked about it, Bill, is we were able to distinguish differences in the plans. I mean, whether it's the tax plan or, specifics on immigration. Did you feel like, Bill O'Reilly, that, people came away smarter in terms of distinguishing the differences in the candidates?
It was more than 2 hours.
Some of it was too wonky for you, right? Some of it was too wonky for you, I think.
It's not about me. My job is to pay attention and try to filter the stuff out. But are you asking me if regular American people are going to sit there for 2 hours and understand the differences among the tax plans? No, I don't believe they are. It's too much. I guess they could go to their websites and read it. But again, you're reading propaganda. You're reading numbers that they want to be.
Yeah.
But I think,
you say that, but I mean, I hear you all the time talking about Swifty. He's got your money, and he's managing, and he's doing it.
That's what I do for a living. I pay attention to them. But could I tell you who wants a flat tax at 10, 12, 22? I can't. But look, I don't know if it even matters at this point, because it's quite clear that all of the Republican candidates will cut both the business and personal tax rate. Will cut government down as much as they can. I think that's the most important thing. So you set up a stark contrast to the voter between the big government tax and spend crew on the Democrat side and the leaner, meaner, will give you more money crew on the Republican side. So that's really, and plus they can say whatever they want, but they're still going to have to get tax law passed. And, that's not always an easy thing to do, as you all know.
What's your take on the foreign policy part of the discussion? Because Donald Trump, reiterated what he said in the past, and that is, look, let Putin go kill them. Let Putin deal with ISIS. I'm very comfortable with that. The follow-up to that is, can you actually support Israel while also letting the Mideast and Russia fight it out? What do you think?
Well, I got Trump on tonight. I got Trump, Rubio, and Fiorina on the factor tonight. And I got some questions for all three of them that, are pretty intense. As far as foreign policy is concerned, there are certain areas that people are strong in and certain areas that people are weak in. So Trump is good on immigration in the sense that he plays to the Republican base. And I said last night something very clear. There's no way that the U.S. government can deport 12 million illegal aliens. So I don't even know why they're still discussing it, because the federal courts would block that. They would just block it. They would go, they have to have due process. They're on American soil. And 35 years from now, you get around to how many you can deport. So it's a moot point. But nobody wants to hear that. It's all show. As far as foreign policy, Go ahead.
No. You finish your thought. Go ahead.
Okay. As far as foreign policy is concerned, it's almost the same thing. It's almost the same thing. Is that Putin's going to do what Putin wants to do. And right now, Putin wants to dominate the Middle East. And he's doing it. So Donald Trump saying, well, I want Putin to kill ISIS. Putin's not killing ISIS. He's not doing it. So why are we discussing it? When Putin turns around and starts to do it, which I don't even know if he will, maybe we can discuss it. But it's a phantom issue. Israel basically is not a starter among American voters. It isn't. So, if you want to get into that murky Middle East policy thing, you're not going to get any votes on it. But ISIS, that's huge. That's a big, big thing. And that's why Rand Paul disqualified himself. And you'll see at the polls. Because you can't say to the American people, I don't want to spend $1 trillion on the military, even if it isn't conservative, even if you don't think it is fiscally, because that base, the Republican base, wants the strongest defense we can have. And you can't tell him, well, I'm not going to do it and think you're going to win. He's out of his mind.
Well, I think one thing came out last night, even though there was some jabs between them, whether it's Rand Paul and Donald Trump or a couple of others, for the most part, they all seem to suggest or came across that they saw Hillary Clinton as the enemy and not each other.
No, it's because I told them to do that. earlier this week. But that was part of that was you guys, the moderators, that you asked questions that they actually had to think about. Here's what most people miss. When you ask a very pointed question that the candidates have to think about, because you obviously don't want to make themselves look foolish, then all of their contrived strategies of attacking this one and that one go out the window, because they're fighting for their lives to get an answer to your questions. That's what you three guys did. So you gave them questions and you took away the option of them hammering each other, which I think they were all told not to do by their advisors, by the way. Whereas the NBC crew, they wanted to, and to some extent CNN, they wanted to have a food fight. So it was clear that wasn't going to happen. A couple of times it did. You know, Trump is always going to do it because that's just the way he campaigns. But by and large, they were locked in, and they understood with Chris Christie, understood very well that the enemy is the opposing party, not each other. Yeah,
well, Chris Christie hammered that home a lot in the undercard debate. Bill, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Yep. Yeah. Well, okay, so now I know where it came from, because he definitely did it last night. Bill O'Reilly, we'll see you tonight. We'll see you tonight on The Factor.
All right, take a nap, Maria. Good job.
Thank you. I will do that. Bill O'Reilly joining us, The Factor, on the Fox News channel tonight. Do join Bill when he has those special guests.